Hi guitar players, in this video I'll show you 5 of my favorite E7 voicings on the guitar, and I'll also tell you when I use them and give you some examples that you can use in your rhythm playing. So as always, the goal here is to give you some inspiration. Leave me a comment if you like the video, or tell me which one of these voicings you like the most. This E7 voicing has the same shape as an open C7 chord, but moved up the neck. On the diagram you can see where to place the fingers of your fretting hand. The root is on the 7th fret of the A string, the major third on the 6th fret of the D string, the flat 7 is on the 7th fret of the G string, and I play another root on the 5th fret of the B string. So the perfect fifth of the chord, the B, is left out, but as a general rule you can leave out this chord tone without really changing the quality or function of the chord. I use this shape mostly for picking individual notes, because I like how the flat 7 rings out against the root. The distance between those two notes is a major second interval, and I like the soft dissonance that this creates. Also, this is a great voicing for remembering the E7 arpeggio in this position. This next voicing is very similar to the previous one, the difference being that the root that was played on the A string is left out and the perfect fifth is now added on the high E string. And you may have noticed that that same major second interval is present in this chord. So again, I like to use it for playing picking patterns and letting the strings ring out, so you get that soft dissonance. I especially like this chord voicing playing alternated with an A minor voicing. Now we're getting a little bit more creative, because I want to show you how I add tensions to a dominant 7th chord. One of the great qualities of a dominant 7th chord is that you can add tensions to it, and tensions are notes that are not chord tones. So up until now I showed you 2 voicings that had the root, the major third, perfect fifth and flat 7, your basic chord tones. But now we're going to add a 9th, and a little bit later I will show you how to add a 13th to a chord. Tensions don't change the chord function, but they add color to the chord. For example, the 9th of the scale will add a certain jazzy flavor to a dominant 7th chord. An E dominant 7th chord with an added natural 9th is simply referred to as an E9 chord. I like this voicing a lot in jazz, but also in blues. It's great for rhythm comping, a swing or a shuffle, and also you can slide this entire voicing a semitone up or down. Now, while we're talking about tensions, let me share with you a quick way to alter the tensions in this chord voicing. For example, the ninth in this E9 chord can be altered, and that means it can be moved a semitone up or a semitone down. If I move the ninth in this chord voicing by a semitone, for example, a semitone up, and that's actually really easy to do in this voicing because I only have to move my pinky 1 fret up, then I end up with an E dominant 7th sharp 9 chord. And that's a long name for a chord, but this chord is actually widely known as the Jimmy chord because it was one of Jimi Hendrix's favorite chord voicings. You hear it in Purple Haze, for example. If I move the ninth a semitone down, then I get an E dominant 7th flat 9 chord. And this is a very dark sounding chord that I don't use that much, but it works great before an A minor chord. Still in that 7th position, I can add the 5th on top again, just like we did in the second voicing. Now, this is still an E9 chord, but the top voice has changed, so that's why I consider this to be a different voicing. Also, to my ears, it has a darker color than the previous voicing. Plus, the fingering is different, so watch how I use my ring finger to bar the 3 highest strings on the 7th fret. This voicing, to me, breeds funk. It's one of my favorite voicings for playing funk guitar. Now, it may be a bit of a stretch, but with your pinky, if you can reach the 9th fret on the high E string, there you have the 13th. This is a sound that you may recognize from James Brown songs. Finally, the voicing that I like the most for E7, or actually I should say E9, is this one in 12th position. And it is a voicing that I found when I studied Robben Ford's playing, and it really is a peculiar way of voicing the E9 chord, because the 9 is somewhat buried into the chord, and some of you may consider this to be a sus2 chord more than it is an E9 chord. Also, there's no perfect 5th in this voicing, and the lowest note is the D, is the flat 7 that is played on the D string. I like how it sounds. It has, again, that major second interval into it, and it gives it a very specific sound. It's a very clear sounding voicing, almost glassy. There's a few fun extras in this chord voicing that I would like to show you as well. Now, if you move your ring finger 1 fret upwards, your ring finger normally plays the major 3rd in this voicing, but when you move it up, you play the 4th of the scale. So you could consider this to be an E9 sus4. Now, still focused on that B string, if we change that 10th fret to a 12th fret, then we play the 5th of the scale. That's a chord tone, that's the perfect 5th, or the B of the E7 chord. So we're back to the E9. Now we can slide this voicing just like we did with the 3rd voicing. Now what's even better is that the chord shape or outline on the guitar neck is the same as that 3rd voicing. And while the chord tones are in different places, the visual outline, the structure of the chord on the guitar neck is the same for these two E9 voicings. Now, this is one of the things I find truly fascinating about the guitar, is that so much of it is visual. There are shapes and patterns on the guitar neck that you can learn that will make it easier for you to remember, for example, a chord voicing or a scale. Also, oftentimes these shapes return at other places. So when you learn one shape or one pattern, you can use it in different situations. That's also the reason why I animated this video, because I really wanted to get that point across, and I hope that my animations will help you remember my 5 favorite chord voicings. Now in the next video, I will show you how I use these different voicings on a backing track that has only one chord, an E7 obviously.